Hey guys, balayage doesn't always have to take hours and hours of application time to create the perfect blended balayage. See how I use the foilayage technique in under 20 foils to create this beautiful blended foilayage. You can follow me over on Instagram at Christy at the Cottage. Hey guys, I'm heading to work right now, and I think the color I'm going to be doing today is going to be pretty easy. Last time she did kind of like a tone down. Today I don't know if we're going to be brightening up for summer, I feel like, or spring. I feel like people are kind of in this like transitional period where it's not quite yet summertime, springtime, but it's not like fall anymore. So they're kind of wanting to lighten up but not go full out blonde yet just because it's not summer. So I kind of find myself being like, what are we doing today? And not really knowing what my clients are going to want because, you know, we're kind of in that middle time of the year where it's not fall, but it's not summer. So anyways, I think today her hair is pretty fine, and it usually doesn't take a whole bunch of time. I don't think so. I think whatever the service is, I don't think it's going to be like ever super blonde or super bright or super heavy and whatever. It might just be a partial balayage, but she generally does like a bigger, like a brighter streak like right on her forehead. So yeah, I guess we'll just see what it is that we're doing. So I'm just gonna head to work right now and stop at Starbucks. Good old Starbucks. I wanted to say thank you to you guys for all of your kind thoughts and prayers and all of that stuff after posting the video from my sister passing away. And I really appreciate all of you guys and how understanding you are and how kind you guys are and all of that stuff. So I know at the end of the video I said that I wasn't going to be responding to comments because it was just too hard, and I didn't really. So don't think that I didn't see them. If you guys didn't get to the end of that video, know that I saw all of your guys' comments and I appreciated them. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that. Okay, here's my clients before, and you can see that it's just got that nice bright piece up front, and this lighting kind of makes it look a little bit more yellow, but it's actually very, very ashy looking. Okay, so my client is here, and we're just going to be touching up the blonde pieces in the front, and the color that I used on her previously was the Agora Vibrance. We kind of toned her down a little bit, and it actually, like, her hair still looks really ashy and really nice. I'm really shocked. Like, it, when I say I really like Agora Vibrance because it has a lot of longevity and it stays nice and cool, like, I feel like this is just a perfect example of why I like it so much, because her hair is still very ashy. It didn't lift very much, it didn't fade, so I feel like that speaks to the line and why I like it so much. So she doesn't want like a whole bunch of blonde, but she just kind of wants to feel sun-kissed a little bit. So we're just gonna go through a highlight around her hairline that we normally do, pretty bright just in that area. And then the rest of her hair just a little bit softer and more natural, and just bring the blonde up a little bit. Oh, and I'm just using my Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 20 volume and Olaplex. Alright, so to start her service, we're going to go through and do my hairline foils that I always like to do. If you watch my videos, then you know that this is usually how I always foil my clients around their hairline, to have that nice bright money piece, but then also it will help blend towards the back of their head. When they pull their hair back, they won't have any stripes or heavy streaks or anything, and then it will also grow out nice and soft and subtle. So we're just going to do really fine weaves, kind of like really soft baby lights, the first two foils. And then the last foil that I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a little bit thicker of a weave. So this is how I always do these foils. Usually if I'm just doing a partial foil, I'll probably just do like 2 to 3 foils. But if they're doing like a full foil or a heavier foil, then I'll go through and do like 4 to 5 foils this way. Or also if they have very dark hair, then I'll usually do a little bit more just to make sure they feel nice and bright and blended. So we're just going to go around her temples and pop in these foils, and that's all we're going to do for her money piece and her hairline. And then we'll go up and do the top of her forehead. So I know at the beginning of the video I said that you can do this service with under 20 foils, or I did the service with under 20 foils, but 9 of those foils were to create her brightness around her face. So that means that we only used like 9 to 10 foils on the rest of her head. And I feel like that's pretty good. Like sometimes we just feel like we have to go in there and do so much work and whatever. I know we're also just kind of doing like a partial balayage on her. We're not going in super heavy handed, but even just doing those few foils that we did throughout the rest of her hair, I feel like that still even got really good coverage. Now, she also doesn't really have much layering in her hair. She likes her hair being one length. So I feel like that really makes a difference too. If somebody has a whole bunch of layers, then that top layer of the hair isn't going to extend through the full length of the hair. It's going to kind of stop kind of midway down their back, or depending on how short their layers are. So you might have to do more foils, especially if they have layers. But for somebody that has just one length hair and not really many layers or anything, then I feel like it's kind of easier to do this and get away with less, because all that hair is going to hang over the top of the rest of the hair and you'll just see everything that's on top versus having to get much coverage through the rest of the hair. So being able to just throw a few foils in and give somebody a nice amount of brightness, I feel like doesn't have to take, hours and hours, especially for me, because I know that I will overwork sometimes. So it's nice to be able to have this option of just doing like 3 foils on either side and then 3 or 4 in the back and call it good. So also here we are going through doing her money piece, and I'm just doing 3 weaves back to back and no subsection. The very, very first foil that I'm doing on her hairline was very fine and more of a baby light, but because she does like it a little bit more bold and bright, I'm going to go through and do like heavier weaves these next few foils right here. All right, so for this service, we're going to go right off of her part. I'm kind of going to do like a heavier weave and then back comb it pretty nicely. And I feel like the way with getting away with not having to do a shadow root is to get a really nice back comb and tease it really good, especially all the way up to the root. And then make sure you're really feathering those peaks up into their, like, into the root area. If you kind of just do, like, apply the bleach in a straight line on the foil and not feather it up into maybe like a W or a V pattern up into the roots, then you're still just getting a heavy line. It is going to be diffused a little bit and much more softer looking, but if you're just slapping the bleach on there in a thick line and not diffusing it at all, then you're still going to kind of have that blunt line appearance no matter how much diffusing and, you know, feathering you're gonna do. If it's still just like a straight line of bleach, it's not gonna be as blended. So you can see here I'm kind of doing some higher peaks of bleach, and that's gonna really help blend the roots a lot more and not have to do a root shadow. If somebody has really dark hair, I might go in with the root shadow just to make sure it blends really nicely. But generally, I don't do root shadows. I try not to unless I absolutely have to. And that's just because eventually when they need a retouch again, you're going to have to relift through all of that color that you deposited in the root shadow, and it can create warmth or banding or whatever. So I try not to have to do a root shadow if I don't have to. I try to blend it really good with the back combing and weaving my sections and then like kind of feathering up into the roots. So that helps me from having to do a root shadow, and I feel like that is a really good way to help diffuse the line of grow out and to get the best blend possible. I don't know if that makes sense. When I say like you're laying the bleach down thick, like imagine if you're just doing a regular foil and you're just pushing all the bleach into one spot and you're not like feathering it up. That's kind of what I mean when I say laying the bleach down in like a straight line. So you guys know that sometimes I like have to think about what I'm trying to say and explain it to you because I don't know if I make sense or not. So anyways, now we're going to flip over to the other side. So again, on that other side that we just did, we only did 3 foils, and now we're going to go through on this side and do the same thing. And I'm not really doing much subsections in between. I'm just kind of weaving a few pieces to leave out. So we're going to go through and paint these peaks that are kind of in their feather up into the roots a little bit more. And then sometimes, like, you'll notice that some of the foils I'm dropping down and I'm not painting as high up into the roots, and that's going to create some more depth in the hair, and it's going to give some variation of brightness. So because she wants to be a little bit more sun-kissed, I don't necessarily want to take the lightener all the way up to the roots for every section. So here's my subsection that I'm going to be leaving out, and then we're going to go through and again, always flip back and check your work. Make sure your subsections are the same. Make sure you're doing like the same amount in between, the same amount of a weave, whatever, so that way you have balance on either side of the head. And so I'm going to go through, and you'll notice that in the next foil or so, I'm not going to bring the lightener up as high, and that's going to leave some dimension, and it's going to help blend a little bit from being kind of soft and more subtle up at the root area with the blonde. And then towards the midsection through the ends is where it's going to fade and get a little bit brighter through the ends. So if you just did your sections, and if you took the lightener all the way up to the root for every section, then you're going to have really heavier blonde, like all the way up to the roots, all the way around. But you'll see here in this one, I'm going to drop the bleach down probably just like through the midsection. I'm not going to go all the way up to the roots, and that's going to leave some of that dimension there. and it's gonna preserve a lot of her natural to where she's gonna still feel nice and rooty. It's gonna help blend the hair, but it's just gonna fade really softly and get nice and bright through the ends, just a little bit at a time. We're not just gonna do like a heavier amount of bleach and like overdo it. Leaving more dimension and depth is kind of key with these services, because that's what's going to make the blonde pop a little bit more versus doing kind of overkill, which I know that that's something that I do sometimes, is I kind of do too much blonde, too much bleach or whatever. So that's why I feel like this service is perfect. We're really just doing these 3 foils on either side and then doing like 3 to 4 in the back of the same thing. And because we're leaving so much of her natural, I feel like that makes those blondes pop a little bit better, make them stand out and feel nice and bright, because we have left so much dark and dimension in the rest of her hair. Sorry guys. It's like an anxiety thing. Like, I'm so worried that I'm not explaining to you what I'm doing the right way, or that I'm not making sense. So because I'm worried that I'm not making sense, I'm going to explain to you in 500 ways possible, any way that I can try to explain it, to make sure that I'm explaining it to you guys in the right way. So now I'm going to over explain to death what I'm talking about. And so that's what happens in my videos, is that I get so anxious about what I'm trying to tell you that I'm going to talk in circles for 10 minutes about it to make sure that you understand what the hell I'm talking about. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? I know you understand what I'm saying. So as we're finishing our application here, I also want to let you know that a few people have asked me how to like comb out and detangle the hair after a back comb. So I'm going to show you the products that I use and also how I wash the hair out to kind of help pull the back comb out a little bit more. And then also some other people have asked about how I style my clients' hair. So I'm not going to show you like every crawl that I do, but I am going to show you how I style the hair too, if that's something that you're interested. So make sure you watch through the end of the video if you're interested in watching the detangling, and also if you're interested in the styling part of the service. All right, 9 foils around the hairline and 9, 10 foils around the rest of her head, and calling it good. So we're going to pull these foils out, and because she wants to be more sun-kissed and not necessarily super ashy, just kind of nice and bright, I'm not trying to lift her super white to get her nice and ashy or anything. We're just trying to lift to like a 9-10 and give her like a nice brightness, but you know, it's okay if she's a little warm at the same time. Okay, so we just got done processing and I washed her out the shampoo blonde. We're gonna tone her now. Last time when I toned her hair, she wanted it to be very cool, but she doesn't want to quite be that silvery right now. So I think I'm just gonna tone her to be nice and bright and cool, but not necessarily like ashy. So I'm gonna use Paul Mitchell the Demi, 10V, 10PA, and a little bit of 9V just to try to get any of those pieces that are still kind of warm. And then I'm not going to use any rose gold because she already has kind of that pre-existing warmth in her hair. So we're just going to use this in tone, and I'm going to use half and half, basically 10PA, 10V, and just like a little smidge of the 9V. So when I first started combing my hands through her hair, that back comb was right up to her roots, but this is a good way when you're conditioning the hair. Just pull the back comb down with your fingers, and this will help eliminate quite a bit of the back comb before you go to comb it out. All right, so we're gonna towel dry the hair pretty good, and I always use a serum. This is gonna help comb the back comb out. It's also gonna protect the hair from heat, give it a little bit of a nice shine, keep the flyaways away, but make sure you're using something that doesn't have too much alcohol in it or anything. Some of them smell so strong of alcohol and it can really dry the hair out. And then this is also the blow dry spray from Kenra. It's kind of slick feeling, so I feel like this, aside from the fact that it smells amazing, but I feel like this kind of helps comb the hair out also. And then I'm also going to take some shine spray, and I'm not going to spray it all over her head, but I'm just going to spray it right where that back comb is because I don't want it to make her hair oily or anything. But I'm just going to spray it right where that back comb is. And because shine spray also is a little bit more slick, that's really going to help be able to comb the back comb out also. And then I know a lot of people are like, oh, if you use a brush, they'll help comb it out. But I personally, it depends on the client. If like my client's hair right now is very fine, and I feel like a brush, a wet brush, whatever brush, I feel like sometimes they snap the hair and they tear through the hair too much. So I don't always like to use a brush. That's why I'm using a comb, because I feel like I can really get through the hair a little bit better. It's not going to tear through the hair. I feel like because the bristles on a brush are so like they move around so much, where a comb is nice and steady, I feel like I can comb it out a little bit easier, just take smaller sections. But sometimes the brush does work better, so it just depends on the person, and I'll kind of go back and forth. So just take small sections when you're combing out the teasing area, take small sections and just do it however you feel best. Some people I have to actually dry their hair. Like if their hair takes so long, there's been people that have literally taken 45 minutes to comb out their hair. And I've realized that if I dry their hair first, then their hair is easier to comb out. So everybody's different. No one's the same. Some people are easier than others to comb out. Other people, you have to dry their hair to comb it out. So those are just some things that work for me. But I feel like one thing that helps the most is when you're conditioning the hair to like pull, like drag your fingers through the ends of the hair and kind of pull some of that back comb out at the shampoo station. All right, let's start drying the hair. And here you can see how nice and soft and subtle and blended it looks on the hairline. There's no heavy streaks or stripes or anything. And that's going to help the hairline grow out really nice and subtle to where they don't feel like they have like heavy grow out or anything. And I just love how it looks when you pull the hair back and you just see how nice and bright it is. So look at all that dimension that's kind of through the ends and then those nice bright pops of blonde. So we're just gonna keep blow drying this, and I just wanted you to be able to see it because sometimes I feel like when the hair is all styled, like sometimes you can make anything look good, but I just wanted you to see it just kind of like in raw form, you know, not styled, and you can really see how pretty the color is and how nice and pretty those soft highlights are and how pretty they turned out. So we're just going to finish this part of the service up and then start curling her hair. So I'm just going through and smoothing her hair and making sure that her ends are nice and straight. I like the ends to be a little bit more straight and loose. If somebody has a lot of frizz, then I would normally go through with a flat iron and smooth out the roots. And then also, if their hair is really curly, then I would go through with the flat iron also and kind of straighten it out a little bit more. So we're going to go through, smooth the roots, and pull it through the ends to straighten the ends out. And then I'm not taking the curling iron like all the way up to the roots. I kind of want it to be softer at the root area and softer through the ends, but still like kind of in the midsection have like a really nice soft wave. So the way that I do my curls is for every section, for every curl, I'm curling away from the face. I'm curling towards the back center of the head, all in the same direction. I know that there's a lot of people that kind of go back and forth, like they'll curl one curl this way and then towards the front of the face and then towards the back and so on and so forth. But I personally don't do that. I curl everything you'll see goes towards the back center of the head. And that's how you get those nice waves where everything kind of forms together and it kind of blends and creates this just really nice big body wave. And some people like that style, some people don't like that style. If you want more of a disconnect in the curl where not everything flows together, then you could still curl the hair in the same direction, and then maybe the next section you can curl it like towards the front of the face, or do every other curl like back and forth from, I always do away from the face no matter what, but then maybe like after you do the first two curls away from the face, then maybe at the corners of the head you could do like towards the face if you want a little bit more of a disconnect, whatever. So this is just how I like curling my clients' hair, is everything all the time goes away from the face. I never ever curl towards the face, and then everything goes towards the back center of the head. All right, now that we're done curling, we're gonna let it sit for a few minutes and cool down. and then we're going to spray it also. But make sure before you comb it out that everything's cooled down, or else you might lose some of the curl. It might go a little bit flat. So we're just going to take the hair, and I'm letting the top section sit out first just to make sure that it cools down all the way. And then we're going to comb through everything. Just comb everything straight down, comb everything back together. And that's what's going to give you that nice wave where everything just kind of curls and forms together. But because I'm using a larger curling iron, I'm using the Jagger from Jay-Z Styles. You can follow her on YouTube, and she has all of her tools and everything. But if you get a curling iron that is like 1.5 inches or so, that will help you get the same curl, or you can use a flat iron. So just comb everything out, and then all the curl will kind of get like a nice loose body wave. So this is how I like to curl my clients' hair. This is my favorite way of doing it. And after you've combed it out, I like to spray it again just to get any of those loose little flyaways, and then just re-comb it all back together again. So yeah, that's how I like to style my clients' hair, and I hope this was helpful for you guys. Here's my clients before again. Pretty natural, limited blonde, except for that little piece around the front of the face that she always likes. And then now here she is. Look at how nice that blends into her roots. We didn't have to use a shadow root or anything. And look at how much coverage that is. Like 20 foils or less. And majority of that, like half of that, was around her hairline. So 10 foils through the rest of her hair. That's a really good coverage. That's a really nice blend. So use the Foilayage technique. I feel like that helps get really good lift. And then also, you know, just placing the foils where you feel like is best. That's going to give your client the most brightness. You don't always have to go underneath. Just kind of stay up on the top, especially if you're just doing a partial, even just a partial. You don't have to do a heavy mount. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and don't forget to like and subscribe.